I'm Rina Benmayor. I was president of OHA in 2010 to 11.
Oh, I'm Linda Shobes. I'm a past president of the Oral History Association and kind of a long-time nudge.
And I'm Mary Larson. I got involved in all this because I was president from 2011 to 2013.
She has the honor of being the only president for 2 years.
Right.
So we want to talk about how we were involved. Three of us were involved in the process of searching for and creating the executive directorship for the association. And this began under my watch in 2010 to 11. And Linda, I remember we had some kind of conversation, and Madeline Campbell, who was our executive secretary, said, I just talked to Linda Shobes, and she really wants to work on this committee for finding the executive directorship. I said, cool. And maybe you want to go back to that.
Right. Madeline was a neighbor of mine, Madeline Campbell, the executive secretary, who was resigning from her position. We're neighbors, and I was talking to her about some other matter, and then, we talk OHA business, and she said, we're going to be looking for a new executive secretary in a new home, and I said, I'd be happy to participate in that process. And I think she said, well, do you want to chair it? And I said, no. And she said, it's really on Rina's, responsibility. And I said, well, maybe Rina and I can work together to develop a sort of vision for an executive director. It had been a long-term interest of mine to ratchet up the administrative structure and hence the capacity of the Oral History Association. I mean, I just knew from my many years as president that we could do much more if we had a full-time staff, if we had an executive director who could do more than simply manage the internal administrative affairs. So, Rina and I talked, and it began a very fruitful, I think, partnership between the two of us, along with our co-committee members, Lori Mercier, who always gave very sage advice, particularly on administrative challenges to universities, and Roger Horowitz, who
our budget whiz,
really gave us the confidence that we could move forward with an executive director, and that the association could afford it, and in fact was able to leverage additional funding from one of our institutional sponsors to proceed in that way.
Yeah, Oxford University Press gave us quite a bit of money to support this endeavor. So we sent out a call for papers. Well, then Mary came in at the end of the process.
Yeah, I was just in at the tail end.
Right, but very important. So we started this process in 2011. In the spring of 2011, we designed a call for letters of intent,
yeah,
et cetera, and we sent it out to far and wide, and we started getting all of these responses. What an amazing number of responses, but more than 20. And this was right after the financial crash, which was 2008-9, and this was 2011. So, institutions were hurting by this point. So we thought, oh my God, this is amazing. Okay, let's go forward.
I think what's important to say here is that we were asking for a lot. We were asking for institutions, and we were going out on a limb doing this. We were asking for a full-time executive director that we would pay for, and a part-time staff support that we were looking for institutional support, plus fundamental institutional support, office space, supplies, and so on. So we really took a risk asking for a lot, but trying to make a case for why the presence of the association would enhance the credibility of an oral or public history program at an institution. And as Rina said, 20 institutions bought our argument, at least initially.
And we were very fortunate to have the support of the National Council for Public History. John Dichtel was really, generous in sharing papers and documents about how they went through that same process. So it was very, very nice.
Yeah.
And so then we went to
Denver.
Denver.
At Denver.
In October. And
I think you did the interviews in Denver with the people who had submitted initial letters of intent. And after that, you went forward with the proposal phase, once you told everybody what you'd expected.
Right. And Linda's right, because we weren't paying for the executive director in full. We had a certain amount of money, and we were expecting universities were going to have to put in, a big pot of money. And I remember in some of those proposals, or some of those letters of intent, and we would talk with people on the phone, et cetera, and they say, oh, well, we could do it by cobbling together this, and this, and part-time here and part-time there. And I'm saying, that isn't exactly what we're thinking of. And so then we got the letters. We started to get the letters, and we did interviews. And we interviewed at Denver, and then we asked for proposals.
Right.
Full-blown
proposals.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that was from November to February, I think, when the proposals were due, or January. And so then people started to whittle away.
Right. The deans started having.
I was going to say, the deans started being involved.
The deans started being involved.
Yeah.
The departments thought this was great for their department and their public and oral history program. And the deans said, wait a minute, there's a big budgetary problem here.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm going to exit from the interview, and Rina and Mary can take you to the end of the process. But thank you.
Okay, so
we got the proposals.
We started getting the proposals, and Roger came in full blown at that point, and we were analyzing all of the different proposals that we got and what would work and what wouldn't work. And we were fortunate to get a glorious proposal from Georgia State University that not only matched what we were asking for financially, but they would also throw in graduate students and another part-time staff person, and they were going to move to a new building, and we were going to have new offices, and they were offering their faculty member, Cliff Kuhn, almost 100% release time to do this work. He would still teach his oral history classes. I think one a semester or one a year, I don't remember exactly, but it was like, oh my God, this came down from heaven.
And Cliff, as a former council member and president, Cliff understood the business of the organization, which was really important. We weren't sure how we were going to do this if it went, if we got a very good offer from an institution who didn't have someone that could easily fit into that slot, because it would have to be a university employee. And the problem was we were coming up on a deadline where we were going to have something going on very quickly as we moved from the headquarters at Dickinson. And if we had to go through a full national search for an executive director, at least as president at the time, and I'm sure with you and Linda on co-chairing the transition team, everybody was just sitting there with bated breath waiting to see what was going to happen when the proposals rolled in, because we knew that potentially would be a huge time sink and a holdup in getting the transition established.
I think finally we had something like 6 or 7 proposals, and Georgia State was among them. And yes, there was a time crunch because we had to move from Dickinson. Madeline was retiring, and so we had such a fortune in Georgia State History Department came through as a total ally to this, and they made the arguments to their dean and their vice president, et cetera, and then came the negotiation or the details of, exactly how this is going. That's when we called in on Mary. Mary, who knows how to do this sort of thing.
I don't know if I knew how to do it or not, but I was president at the time, so I having been, in an academic position for we all had been in different ways, but I got to work on some of the negotiations. We had a lot of help from John Neuenschwander too with the legal language. But I know I spent more time that year looking at the fine details of legal documents than I have ever had before or since, because it was also about the same time as the Boston College Belfast project case. So I spent a lot of time on the phone with John Neuenschwander that year, who was a true champ.
Which was great because we were so exhausted after going through all these proposals and everything. And Cliff's chair, Michelle, I remember Michelle, I can't remember her last name right now, but she was terrific because she conversed with us as we're doing this together. And it really was a lovely opportunity for the association. And finally, I think in May or June, we signed the contract.
I think so,
like that.
yeah. I think, and everybody there was really so easy to work with. I've had to do, cross-institutional contracts in the past that have just been nightmares. And Michelle and everyone else at Georgia State were just lovely, lovely people. So it made it much easier. So.
And the three of us became really good friends.
I was going to say we had the opportunity to become even. So that was a nice side effect. And then for the transition, everything got shipped. Madeline packed everything up from Dickinson.
She came down and trained
Gail. And some of it got shipped directly to Dickinson. And I think some of the material got sent directly to University of North Texas, where the OHA archives are. So,
yes, yeah.
But it was quite a time.
It was quite a time, and it was the nice thing was that it was a really happy end process and happy conclusion, and I think everything seems to indicate that it was the right decision.
So
we just wanted to put that on tape.